Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has lambasted the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro in the Eastern Cape for continuing to report fruitless and wasteful expenditure. A local government review and expenditure report compiled by National Treasury highlights underspending of grants and revenue by municipalities, with the Nelson Mandela Bay among the chief culprits. For more on this conversation, we're joined now by Nelson Mandela Bay Executive Mayor Gary Van Niekerk. Mayor, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on this evening. First, let's start by establishing, of course, the letter written to you by Treasury, citing some unhappiness with some of the decisions and actions that would have been taken by the Metro of late. How do you find and how do you receive that letter?
Thank you, Tomo. Thanks for the opportunity to set the record straight. Let me start off by saying the expenditure that you're referring to, you get different types of these expenditures. You get unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. 96% of this 20 billion rand that's being referred to, 96% of it is irregular expenditure. It's not fruit and wasteful expenditure. I needed to put that on the record. And then as well, I need to reiterate the point that it's not since I became the mayor that we've spent so much money on irregular expenditure. It goes back to way before 2014 even. So I'm not going to sit here and own the problem, but I am going to hold myself accountable in order to clean the records of the municipality. So the Minister of Finance he's received a brief, and it's important that the record be set straight between the two of us. We are compiling a comprehensive report to him to illustrate exactly what we are doing from our side to ensure that we don't incur any further irregular expenditure. Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality has the dubious distinction of leading the country in irregular expenditure. Like I said, 96% of that 20 billion rand is irregular expenditure.
So let's stick there, because you've started there. Now we'll go back to the other issues. So you're correct to say it doesn't start with you, and I don't think the Treasury is saying it starts with you. But here's an important distinction. The Treasury says there is a continued high level of irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. So it is continuing. He's not saying it's starting with you, but he's saying that with you coming in, it's not getting better. It's seemingly continuing.
That's not entirely true. But if you look at what we've done in the last couple of months and years as well, we've developed a policy that has been developed and approved by Council as well, in line with guidelines of National Treasury. We have a list of all kinds of expenditure, UI, FW expenditure. So we are keeping tabs on that. What's also required is that it's being divided up per directorate. So we keeping our executive directorates, we hold them accountable in terms of irregular expenditure. I must reiterate the point, Tower, that it's about 4% of the 20 billion rand is fruitless and wasteful expenditure.
Yeah, the 16% you're saying is irregular. The 96%, I beg your pardon, is irregular expenditure.
That's 96%.
96% irregular.
And what irregular expenditure is.
Exactly. So let's go to what the Treasury says. It says you are struggling to interpret the implementation of the guidelines and regulations on procurement. So 96% of the time in your spend, you are struggling to properly interpret the implementation of the guidelines and the regulations on procurement.
And I must iterate, it's for the last 14 years that this has been the case. But like I said, we've put measures in place. Other important thing is the impact should be one of the weaknesses that we've identified is that impact doesn't sit regularly. We encouraging impact to sit regularly. We encourage external support from provincial and national government, and obviously consequence management as well, and as well as benchmarking ourselves against other municipalities.
So the other issue that is being raised in the letter is the one that we've canvassed with you numerous times back and forth. It's the question on the suspension of the city manager. So initially you came in and you said, Treasury said, you've got to put disciplinary action in place, otherwise they're not going to release the grant, right? And the Treasury says, yes, indeed, we did say that. But the Treasury now is saying, it seems you have exceeded the bounds of what you were supposed to have done, because the extension of the suspension now is not in line with government disciplinary regulations of senior managers. As you know, it can't go beyond the 90 days.
So first of all, I did point out now the headline that said it was wasteful and fruitless expenditure. Secondly, whoever briefed the minister regarding the suspension of the city manager hasn't briefed him properly, and hence it's so important for us to get this report to him ASAP, even if it requires me going to see him personally to address this issue. What's happened is, the truth of the matter is that the period lapsed, 90 days lapsed, and we then took a new item to council. The old suspension was not extended. And let me just repeat that, it wasn't extended. I'm at pains to explain that we did not extend it because it doesn't conform to the, like you just said now, the guidelines for disciplinary action for senior managers. So yes, it's not an extended suspension, it's a new suspension.
The letter goes on to say you have laid the blame for the 3 million golden handshake paid to the CEO of the Mandela Bay Development Agency wrongly on the city manager. What actually happened there?
What transpired there, Tabo, if you allow me 2 minutes. There was disciplinary action taken against the then ED of Economic Development, Tourism and Agriculture. That went to the disciplinary board. The disciplinary board came back, cleared the ED, and then what then transpired was the weirdest thing. We as the municipality, and I wasn't the mayor back then, didn't want to accept the findings of the disciplinary board. Mr. Kaba was supposed to return to his post as the ED of EDTA, and that is when the now suspended city manager and the executive mayor, the previous executive mayor, started negotiating with Mr. Kaba for a settlement. They reached a settlement, and yeah, that's what transpired over there in terms of the golden handshake.
And you are saying you are blaming her for fruitless expenditure. Hence you're extending her, or at least renewing her suspension?
We've received other documentation from internal audit who said that, who brought it to my attention, and they said that I must take this this issue is a totally separate issue to council, and yes, it's now going to council next week, so that we can we actually got the report back from the disciplinary board as well. Yeah. So that report is going to be tabled in council next week regarding the city manager. The 3 million rand is something that was decided in council, where the city manager asked if she could start this process of negotiations, but it was basically the then Mayor Retief Odendaal and the city manager that did the negotiations for the golden handshake for the ex-ED of EDTA.
Yeah. A quick one, I mean, I'm out of time, but I need to ask you this because we spoke to you and explored this quite extensively. The matter of Mr. Jani. Are you accepting now that Mr. Jani has been cleared of any wrongdoing by the Hawks?
Yes, that's a good question, Tabo. the long and short of it is that I wasn't even aware that there was a case opened by somebody from the public. It's not the council who opened it. I don't know what the NPA, whoever investigated this matter. I have been in contact with the NPA. I received quite a comprehensive document from Mr. Jani's previous employers, where one could follow chronologically what transpired. It's basically there's a gap in the CV of about 6 months where he was not employed. So what then transpired is that after being employed at our municipality, he asked for an increase because of the fact that he says that from his previous employer to us, his salary, he took a drop in salary and he wanted his salary adjusted. So that can only happen if you were employed before coming to us. So he was not employed. But what the NPA had at their disposal compared to what I have at my disposal is two totally different things. And if you also consider the fact that the NPA, when it comes to what they look at whether a crime was committed. Crimes need to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Whereas when you get to the municipality, you refer to misconduct of senior managers, and that needs to be proven on a balance of probabilities. So it's two totally different matters, but I'll keep you posted in terms of what's actually going on with the case regarding Mr. Jani.
Nelson Mandela Bay Executive Mayor Gary Van Niekerk, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming.